Well, welcome back. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're continuing in this session our theme of sustainability and purpose. We've talked over the course of the past week of many different companies, many different brands, some of the biggest companies and biggest brands on the planet. And it's a great privilege and a pleasure now to be joined in this session by two phenomenal entrepreneurs that know all the joys and pain of establishing an entrepreneurial business from scratch, from day one, literally. And we'll understand a little bit more about how that worked, but literally from their kitchen table. It's a great pleasure to introduce Nick and Camilla Barnard. Nick is the co-founder and executive chairman. Camilla is also the co-founder and is the brand director. Nick and Camilla, a very warm welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Hello.
Good day to you, and thank you.
Perhaps you can help level set everybody, because much as you might like to think that everybody watching might know Rude Health right across the world, there might be some countries that haven't yet heard of Rude Health. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about Rude Health, but maybe the best insight is its founding, which literally was around your kitchen table.
It was 16 years ago. We mixed up the ultimate muesli at our kitchen table, so called because it had 24 abundant ingredients. And the idea of that, which is the idea that stayed true to the business throughout, was we love food, and we felt that there was health food should be as delicious and desirable as any other food. So the idea of the ultimate muesli, which is the ultimate healthy food, was if we could make that delicious and desirable so that it's easy to be healthy, then that was a great place to start. And everything we've done since has stuck to that sort of founding principle. 16 years, many foods, but still the same kitchen table later. We're still making healthy food, yummy. And
I think that also, it's important to understand what the expression or the name Rude Health means, because 16 years ago, more or less to the day, up popped the idea of this name. And it's an old English expression. Rude in German is ruddy, or that gives you some idea that you're red-cheeked because you are full of life and vitality. You've been working outside, you've been enjoying life, and you're up for life. And that positivity also echoes throughout our brand and our way of being, on the basis that we're inclusive and positive and up for this challenge to make food and drinks that are both nourishing and delicious.
Now, I mean, do you still have the very same kitchen table?
The very same kitchen table, had breakfast at it this morning.
And this was the kitchen table where we chopped prunes because you couldn't put them in a machine.
And chopped apples.
Chopped apples so that they were within a few degrees of the required specification that we created. And this has been part and parcel of our methodology today: quality and integrity and detail.
Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about just the current status of the company and the product range. So from the ultimate muesli to what, Nick?
Well, you've got a transition from a startup, as you noted, David, making muesli, to a company that's now widely available worldwide and known best for our drinks, our dairy alternative drinks, of which the most popular is the almond drink. So we have transitioned from breakfast cereals into snacks and into the dairy alternative segment, the plant-based. I mean, all our foods are naturally plant-based. We haven't had to redefine ourselves to be plant-based. And of course, the primary use of, certainly in the Western diet, for these drinks is in breakfast cereals. So it was a natural relationship.
At breakfast, technically at breakfast. So it's a mixture of smoothies, hot drinks, breakfast cereals, but breakfast is the key occasion for consuming milks and alternative milks.
Now, clearly for many young consumers, but increasingly consumers of any age, they're looking at buying products that come from companies that have a purpose that are beyond profits. What is your purpose beyond profit?
I think that goes back actually to your first question, David, and sort of why did we do the business, and what's it for? And it is what we would love to do. We look at the country, the UK, we're based in the UK, and what we would really love is for everybody to be enjoying eating healthily, for that to be something that's available, appealing and easy. That would be the ultimate dream, to make that straightforward, to make eating well the default. So that would be the huge win in somewhere in the future.
And in many ways, that's a parcel of our naming and our attitude, is that sense that we provide a doorway into a world of positivity around the relationship with food and insights through wisdom as to what constitutes nourishment, or what constitutes tasty, and also that's nourishing rather than tasty, and is tasty for reasons that are not nourished, that is not nourishing.
And in some countries, this may actually not resonate, because in countries where there's a really strong food culture, or as you could argue in China, where there's a real understanding of, you go to your food cupboard as your first port of call for sort of medicine, that's where you go to be well first. So food is about nourishment. It's totally integrated into health and wellness historically in some countries and cultures. But I feel in the UK certainly there's been an enormous split. And what we would love is to do our little bit to refresh that and rejoin that.
Now, when you both founded the company, how front of mind was it at that stage that you wanted to create an organisation that had sustainability, health, wellness at its core, as opposed to something that got sort of grafted on as the company grew?
Couldn't help it. That was why we did it.
Well, it was our natural. Yeah. I mean, nothing's changed. In our demeanour or temperament, we have spent a considerable amount of time through the history of the company working out how to be as thoughtful. I mean, we are naturally thoughtful, but to be thoughtful all the way down to into the field, all the way back up into the manufacturing or the packaging or the bottling and so on. And so that's part of our lifestyle. So for us, to me, it's a bit like work and play. There's no difference. So therefore, the business is no different to our characters, and our characters are all about being respectful and responsible.
Also, neither of us were food industry people. We weren't coming at it from a food business background. We came at it because we love food and wanted to do something.
We couldn't actually help
food. So yeah, it was.
It was to feed our family and our friends rather than to make a business plan. So we were absolutely naive, but naively responsible.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice expression, naively responsible. Wind the clock forward 14 years, and you're part of what's become known as a Beecorp. Perhaps you could explain a little bit to everybody about what a Beecorp is and why you're so proud to be part of that group of companies.
Yeah. So Beecorp is an organisation, and what they want to do is to sort of join up and raise all the businesses that are acting in sort of the way we've naturally acted, that are more than profits. It's people and planet and purpose as well as profits. So they're trying to put that front and centre and create a sort of club of these businesses and help them to succeed. So I think when we came across that, it was extremely serendipitous, because obviously that's kind of what we'd set the business up to do anyway, without having any third-party certification in mind. But having that third-party certification and having then the connectivity with all the other businesses is a real boost for actually internally as well. It's really lovely for our team members to feel to really feel like they've got the approval, stamp of approval that what they're doing really is recognised, it really is worthwhile, it really is making a difference, and to connect them to peers in perhaps different categories doing a similar thing. So it was a very sort of serendipitous discovery.
We in our previous session we talked quite a bit about I suppose the consumption cycle that we've had in the West versus the relatively new consumer-driven consumption cycle specifically in China. Do you think it is feasible for us all to be able to consume in a sustainable way?
Well, I mean, here we're looking at this isn't a homogeneous environment in terms of our attitudes towards what constitutes enough. And we've certainly taken too much for granted. So that, in terms of availability, in terms of ignoring seasonality, ignoring local, in other words, ignoring too many obvious factors that are draining the planet's resources and actually doing us no good. So it's a very interesting question, because you could argue that if you look at all this convenience and you look at all of this unsustainably cheap, pleasurable foods, and then look at the lack of wellness. So there's, in terms of the chronic ailments that afflict us, that are all lifestyle and largely to do with diet and attitude towards food. So we have a situation that our bodies and our, in our societies, there is an obvious but largely ignored indicator that all is not well. And this is the watch out, is that what you eat and how you are in terms of your attitude defines your wellness. And as we are not well as a societal group, certainly in the those embracing the Western diet, we have to change our attitude towards what constitutes a relationship with food and our understanding, and come out of this ignorance and this greed and into a more responsible landscape to ourselves and to, obviously, as we are the planet, whether anybody would like to think that we're in control. Strangely enough, we are actually of nature. We need to be very much aware of that responsibility to ourselves and to the planet.
But I think what's difficult is it's a tricky message, because it can be quite a miserable, heavy, you should, you ought to message, which isn't very, it's not very uplifting. So I think what, certainly our route has been to try and use, inspiration and positivity. So we're not banging on about the environment a lot. So we're doing an enormous amount of things that are for the good. So in the sense, so for example, sourcing our almonds, we don't use Californian almonds because they're largely an environmental disaster. We use almost entirely Sicilian almonds. But the story we tell about them, we don't talk about anything wrong about Californian almonds, but we talk about what's great and right about Sicilian almonds. They're grown closer to home, they grow there naturally. They don't need a huge amount of intervention, because that's where they grow. That's the almonds have always grown in Sicily. So we're trying to sort of inspire, we want to use inspiration to try and, it's almost like wake up that connection. Because I think what, we were talking about this earlier and saying what's probably at the heart of the problem is that in urbanization, there is an automatic disconnect between with nature, with where your food comes from, with everything. So again, it's a tiny way. Anything we can do to just make you think, or bring that back into your life. It's hard, but
and there's that element of positivity that the root health being up for life. Your glass is half full, not half empty. And what we have found is that, in our own small way, one at a time, one person, one bowl at a time, what you're doing is you're providing these triggers, these emotional triggers usually, to awakening a better relationship with food. And in workshops that I've run, where I've had individuals crying happily crying at the sensory experience of making foods, whether it's ghee or sauerkraut or making an oat drink, where they really celebrate being connected to their food. After all, in an urban environment, food is really our only connection with nature.
I suppose in that context, what are you doing? It's a very interesting example with Sicilian almonds, but what are you doing in order to help reduce your impact on the environment during your sourcing and production processes?
Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge. So I remember that one of the first things that we tried to do probably 14 years ago. So we very naively tried to, first of all, we looked at everything from packaging to ingredients, sourcing, you name it. And one of the things we did on packaging was to try to remove the box around the bag of cereals. That was a disaster because it's completely dysfunctional, and actually the box is card, which can be recycled and recyclable. And if you remove the box and just have the bag, it falls over, it rips, you waste the cereal. It's a complete nightmare.
So in this country, it doesn't look pretty.
It doesn't
look quality.
So that didn't work. And then we tried to upgrade the bag inside by using what was then very new technology and purportedly a compostable or biodegradable bag. Which again was a lovely idea. Wanted to use reduce our use of plastics, but that failed at the first hurdle because that type of plastic didn't seal properly, so that all of the cereal would then fall out the bottom of the bag. So we started, and it's there's the next. One of the latest things is that the cartons that we use for the drinks are now mostly sourced from renewable resources and recyclable. They've hugely improved their environmental footprint, which is great. So that's something we've been hoping for ages. And as with the almond story, again, we've managed to use an ongoing challenge. We're very excited that our oat drink, our British oat milk, is now British. It's British oat milk because it's the only grain. Oats are pretty much the only grain that we can grow successfully, reliably in this country because of the amount of rain that they require. So we're
it's a Northern Hemisphere crop, and that applies to all of our ingredients. We source where they grow best. Go on.
I think we worked out that in a year of using British oat milk rather than European oat milk means I think we save the equivalent of twice round the world of miles travel. So it's little changes. Whenever we can do them, we're doing them, and it's a lot to do with sourcing and packaging.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No. That's that.
Now, over that period, you've seen a shift in the trends and more importance of people's understanding about the importance of healthy living. Do you see that as a long-term trend or a bit of a fad at the moment?
I think health, definitely macro long-term trend. And I think the move to dairy-free is definitely a long-term trend for a number of reasons. I think there are within that sort of, whatever you want to call it, aura of health, I think there will be lots and lots of micro trends that come and go and very exciting ingredients that just a couple of years ago, everything was to do with turmeric, was all the rage, wasn't it? And that sort of quietened down. It's still there, but it's
goji berries, turmeric. This comes back also to the story of the relationship with food. This idea that the medicine cabinet is in the kitchen rather than being in the bathroom. That you go to your recipes rather than to your doctor. And this is all that's happening, whether it's a focus on turmeric or goji berries or any other so-called superfood, which of course is for our ancestors, which is laughable, is to be welcomed because it creates a connection, whether it's a spiky connection. It just creates a connection with the reality that our wellness is up to us and that we can positively make a difference to ourselves and in doing so to the planet.
Now, you've literally gone from your kitchen table to selling in China. You're participating in the 11/11 Global Shopping Festival this year. And we'll talk a little bit about China a little later on. But in that context, I mean, you're in the lucky, fortunate position, to have taken, a company from nothing to what it is today over a relatively short period of time. How do you keep your focus on the principles that you established on day one as the organization becomes bigger, the sales become bigger, the pressure to grow becomes bigger? How do you keep true to your roots and your origins?
It's an interesting one. I think because the principles and the focus are, as Nick was saying earlier, are kind of who we are. In many ways, keeping that is not a challenge at all, because we can't do it any other way. I think where focus isn't our key strength is because we love food and we are naturally sort of entrepreneurial, we will get excited by new ideas and new things.
Distracted.
I say excited, but actually distracted. So we need what's actually difficult for us, and what we're going through sort of constantly, but in particular now, is a phase of sort of professionalization. So it's keeping all of the original principles and reasons and the emotion that we set up with, but actually applying some proper structure to it, so that we stop. We're not tempted to veer off and become distracted by things.
No, and I think also what's interesting about your question is that it, particularly if you're looking at from a business school point of view, we fail on the business school concept because we're not a repeatable formula, that where you can, because repeatable formulas are about extraction from nature. And so we're self-limiting on the basis that we can do that is natural, that is naturally sustaining and sustainable. And so that limits us in our own way. So therefore we've got to play with our focus in the areas where we can make a difference. And over the years, the greatest challenge for me and for those in the business has been finding co-partners who understand what we've just said. In other words, who will work with us on the basis of integrity and quality. I
mean, we talked, Nick, in a couple of sessions on day two, I think, about the importance now of sort of ecosystems. How important is it from your perspective, or the experience you've had in finding ecosystem partners to make sure that those ecosystem partners share the vision?
Fundamental, I mean, and our benchmark for that from day one was the organic kite mark. So if you put the organic filter onto your relationships with suppliers, with friends and producers, you immediately have a filter that selects into a fellowship. And it's a small fellowship. And you just have to accept that. And again, that's a limitation on growth. You are self-limiting by virtue of your criteria in your relationships. But the joy of those relationships and the understanding between us, it's an unwritten code between us that we're putting back in. And a lot of those producers and indeed farmers we've known for 16 years are with us and have grown with us, which is a beautiful relationship story. And some indeed are shareholders. So it's been an integrated and collaborative journey.
Now, what was the attraction of China?
Well, I mean, it's got to be the most exciting sort of market is the wrong word, but it's so dynamic. And we look at China and we see a country that, in terms of, I think, innovation and retail and consumer feedback and supply, is, I think, leading the world. The speed, looking at those, the way China can work, where you've got somebody broadcasting a choice of, it could be lipstick colors or whatever, consumers responding immediately, and then the factory floor below then making that color immediately and getting it straight out to the consumers. I think it's, I look at China and think, wow, that we're going to be following them and learning from China, learning from the Chinese and how they operate. It's faster, it's more personalized, it's the innovation process is so much quicker and so much more connected.
The speed of engagement.
Oh, speed of engagement is extraordinary. So I think, it's a market that we've got a lot to sort of learn from in many ways.
Yes, and I mean we're old school, yeah.
And then the other thing, of course, was so there was a general interest, and then obviously in China there isn't a history of drinking milk particularly.
Indeed not. No, in fact, there's not a history of dairy per se.
Exactly. So that's actually a lovely opportunity for us, because one of the things that that really our rude health milks, alternative milks are about is flavour. And in this country, that's a harder message to land. In dairy drinking countries, it's a harder message to land, because people are used to milk, and they're used to actually a very basic kind of milk, because that's all you can get in the supermarket, that you're not buying for taste. You're buying it as a sort of default. You just always do.
And price.
So we're trying to add to that to say, hey, you might like almond milk on your porridge, but you might like coconut milk in your coffee. You can actually upgrade what you're having. Whereas in China, you don't have to get people out of a sort of dull neutral mindset. They completely understand flavour and choice and why you would make your food sort of tasty and nourishing. So I think it was a sort of double appeal of the excitement of working in a market that isn't a dairy, doesn't have a dairy history.
And you're not intimidated by the challenges that lie ahead and progress in a market as large and complex as China. I'm very impressed.
Well, we are, but we're going to do it anyway.
Now that's the best. That's the best answer.
Collaboration, and what we're doing is learning by from your introductions and this this fellowship that you've created, and we are eager. One thing has really surprised me over the 16 years is that what we're doing is so obvious, and yet it's so little understood or copied or adapted to. And this is something that we've been extremely good at, and the reason we're here today is that we've listened and we've adapted and we have amended, we have evolved our look and feel, comms, energy, to the criticism and also to the positivity of the others around us, so that we can speak more clearly, be found more easily, and be more relevant.
Well, we wish you a lot of luck this year in 11/11. We'll come back later on maybe and see how everything's going. At the end of every single day, we have our recipe of the day, which contains recipes from using root health products from Vitabiotics and Lodo, and this evening is going to be no exception to that. And at the end of 11/11, on the 11th, you'll be able to download all those recipes, and you can try to create them yourselves at home and experience root health products as well as others. I can't quite let you go yet without asking you which out of all the ranges that you now create is your most favourite root health product.
You go, Camilla, because it's every morning.
Every morning I have the ultimate granola. That's the absolute staple. So that'd be my number one, I think.
And being rather shy and retiring as world speciality porridge champion, I would have to say that it's a combination of the almond drink and our 5-grain 5-seed porridge oats.
Good choice. Good choice.
Well, Nick and Camilla Barnard, the founders of Root Health, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I know being an entrepreneur has a lot of ups and has lots of downs in it, and you've certainly created an amazing consumer experience, which not only includes the products, but a retailer in your own right as well, also having a cafe as well. I'm sure you've learned a lot from that. And of course, for most small businesses, clearly the COVID period has been phenomenally challenging, but you're looking good and positive. So that experience obviously just goes into the experience pool for you to be drawn out on a later date. But Nick and Camilla from Root Health, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, David. Bye for now.